Hello, and welcome to the Young Adult Career Readiness Workshop. Today we are going to overview how to write a good resume and cover letter, how to ace an interview, and appropriate ways to follow up with employers through thank you notes. The objective today is to understand how to write a resume based on your experience, how to write a good cover letter and what its purpose is, how to ace an interview by answering difficult questions, monitoring your body language, and the appropriate attire to wear, how and when to follow up with an employer after the interview is done, and how to write an appropriate thank you note and what its purpose is. Is a resume. Your resume is a marketing tool. It should highlight your skills, achievements, experience, and education. Ultimately, your resume needs to be made for you and with you in mind. You want to use your resume as an opportunity to really sell yourself to an employer before you get a chance to meet them. There are several different kinds of resumes that you can use, depending on your experience. However, the one that we are primarily going to use for young adults is going to be one that highlights your transferable skills when you have limited job experience. So what do I mean by a transferable skill? Transferable skills are skills that you have that you've obtained in things outside of your work or employment opportunities. Things such as teamwork, leadership, personal motivation, organization, time management, listening, written communication, etc. These are all things that you may have learned or gained while maybe perhaps working on a sports team or being a part of your school's band or interacting at different volunteer or community activities. These are all things that, although you didn't gain them from employment opportunities, these are great transferable skills that you can show a work site that you have based on some of the other experiences that you've had in life. So what is a keyword? A keyword are words or terms used to describe skills and experiences. Employers use resume scanners to pick up on certain words that are relevant to the position or job description that they are asking you to fill. So these things are called resume software filtering systems. And essentially what this means is that before you even have a chance to look at a human eye, or before you get called in for an interview, a lot of work sites and businesses now will use these computer software systems to pre-scan resumes before they even look at them. Keywords are important because keywords are what are going to be picked up by the resume scanners to be noticed and to be marked and flagged as a really great candidate. So you want to make sure that you include these keywords in your resume when you are writing your resume for specific jobs. With that, it's really good to note that although you may have one base or one kind of standard resume that you use, depending on the job that you're applying for, you are going to want to modify and change that resume slightly to best reflect that position you're applying for. One great way to do that is to look for the keywords. So here is an example of an actual job description that we have for a business service internship at our location at PA CareerLink. I want you to take a moment and I want you to look through and try to identify what you may think are some of the keywords. Keeping in mind that keywords are what are going to best be described to describe the key things, so to speak, that an employer is looking for in an intern. So take a moment, feel free to pause this slide, look through, and review to see if you can pull out some of the keywords from this job description. Here, we've highlighted some of the keywords in red. Notice that a lot of the keywords highlighted here are going to be under the required experience section. Things such as highly organized, detail-oriented, follow deadlines, juggle multiple tasks, take initiative, and manage personal workload. These are all things that if you have these skills, you're going to want to make sure that you include these somewhere on your resume. Now, what I'm not saying is to highlight, copy, and paste this exact phrase onto your resume, but you can strategically place these words, these keywords, on your resume so that way when the resume scanners are looking for this, they're able to flag you as a great possibility for a candidate. Another great place to find keywords for making a resume when applying is on the company website itself. So you want to definitely review the position and the job description to find some keywords to make sure you're a great fit and you're making it through that scanner. But you also want to look at things like mission statements, key values, different things that the company may be passionate about that are highlighted throughout their website. Because what that does is that allows you to not only be selling yourself, marketing yourself, so to speak, as a great person for the one position, it's also marketing and selling yourself as a great person to be a part of their workplace, their work dynamic, that you show that you're a great fit and you embody some of the key things that they hold valuable and hold as high importance within their company. So now onto the actual creation of your resume. You want to start with your resume header, including your contact information with your full name, address, email address, and phone number. It's really important here to note that you want to make sure that both your email address and your voicemail are set up in a professional manner. What I mean by this is if you have an email that's something like crazydancer92@yahoo.com, that's not a great first impression for a work site. Take the opportunity to create an account that is going to best model and reflect and draw the job seeker and the job description, the business, I'm sorry, draw the business back to you. So for example, first initial, last name, first name, any combination that is going to link you well to the place you are applying for. If you choose not to include your full address, you need to at least include the city and state in which you are located. Same thing with your phone number. If you have a voicemail that is not set up in a professional way, it can still be tailored and fun based on your personality. But if you don't have a professional voicemail, I would highly encourage you to modify that to better sell yourself and represent yourself to potential employers that may be calling you to try and set up an interview. Also, if your voicemail is not set up or if the voicemail box is full, do yourself a favor and make sure to clear out your voicemail so that employers can leave you a voicemail so that you can set up and don't miss an opportunity for a potential interview. Profile or profile summary or summary. This is essentially something that is going to start your resume off by explaining who you are and what are your most highlightable features. You want it to be consistent with the job description or the position that you're applying for. Contain the years of experience, if you have more than 3 in that field. Key strengths and skills that you may have, what you can bring to the position or company, any education or training that you've obtained, and again, keywords from the job description. This is going to be the first thing that really catches the employer's eye. So make sure that you're giving yourself a really great intro and summarizing yourself really well. Here's a resume example. Notice at the top, it has the person's name and the name is slightly bigger. You want your name to be between 12 and 14 point font. Then they have their address, the phone number, and the email. The rest of the page is between 11 and 12 point font. That first little section that you see is called the summary. Here they put 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 3, briefly overviewing and summarizing their key experience and who they are. Then they list some skills in bullet point format right underneath that. This is a great example of a summary for somebody maybe that doesn't have a ton of experience, but do have some transferable skills. This is a place where you could include that to show and to highlight yourself well to a business based on your limited experience. Notice here that throughout the entire resume, you will not see the word I or me or we or any personal pronouns. Why is that? The reason for that is because these are all statements. They're not sentences. The reason for that is because we know who the subject of the sentence is. So instead of saying, I am a motivated and reliable high school student seeking part-time summer position, You start off by saying, with the adjective, motivated and reliable high school student seeking part-time summer position. You can also start it off with a verb, as in the next sentence or statement. Demonstrated interpersonal skills and ability to work well on teams or independently. Make sure throughout your entire resume you keep off any personal pronouns such as I, we, us. The next section is going to be the experience. Notice here, the first set of experience that this person has listed is actually a volunteer experience. Volunteer experiences are great things to include on a resume when you have limited job experience. Here you're able to still highlight some of the skills and the resources that you obtained to enhance your career without going into detail about how you have limited job experience. They listed a few of their key responsibilities, again, beginning with the verbs in bullet points underneath their title and where they worked at. Notice too that the years and the dates are in chronological reverse order, starting with the most recent, working your way back. This is an example of a resume that you can use as a young adult. At the bottom, you'll see that they have their education. In that, they included their expected graduation year. If you have already graduated or if you have not obtained any high school graduation diploma, you don't need to include this. If you have a noteworthy GPA from your high school, that's also something you may want to include in this resume. Your references. References are often a great way to continue to sell yourself and to promote yourself, market well to a business. Your references should be contacted before you put them down and hand them into the potential business. You want to make sure that you ask permission before so that you know that they're willing to serve as a reference for you. There's nothing more awkward than getting someone who has put you down as a reference and you don't necessarily really know if you would even hire them yourself. So make sure that you are asking permission and prepare the person that they may be receiving a call from a work site that you've applied for a position at. Make sure you include your references title, company, address, phone number, and email. This is so that the business can contact them and ask them how they know you or if they would be willing to recommend you for this position. Do not include your reference information on your resume. Make sure that you take copies with you to your interview. This is a great way to leave a really great lasting impression. When you go at the end of your interview, once you've made it to your interview and you're at the end, you can do a give and take. You want to give them a copy of your references and ask them for a copy of their business card. We'll discuss this later in appropriate follow-up steps. You want to list 3 to 5 people who can speak highly of you on your references. It could be maybe a teacher, a coach, a club leader, somebody you volunteered with, etc. Cover letters. A cover letter should complement but not duplicate your resume. Its purpose is to interpret data and facts from your resume. A cover letter creates a critical first impression. So what exactly is a cover letter? A cover letter is essentially exactly what it says, a letter. It's a letter written to the business or the work site that you are hiring or applying for. And it's used to kind of expound upon things that you've included in your resume. This is a great opportunity to write something specific to the business and the hiring person that you're applying with to make sure that you are explaining and maybe doing a little bit more due diligence in your application process. Oftentimes, cover letters are not required in applications. However, this is something that can really set you apart from potential other candidates. Taking the extra time to write a personal, professional cover letter can potentially seal you the deal over somebody maybe that was also a great candidate but didn't take the time to do this. To make sure that you are taking the time to do it well, keep it short, no more than 1 page in length. Use it as an example of your communication skills and to just briefly overview who you are, why you think you would be a great fit for this position, and to explain any of the highlightable, noteworthy things on your resume. Make sure that you proofread your cover letter and all of your documents before sending it. One thing that I'll note here is that cover letters, if you're applying for similar positions, cover letters may be able to be used to multiple employers. However, if you want to do it really well, make sure that you're modifying it slightly to best reflect the company that you're applying for. The core statements, such as explaining some of your skill sets or noteworthy things, may stay the same, but the intro and the close may be slightly modified to better reflect who you're actually applying with. For example, if you're applying for both Sheets and Wawa, both of those kind of do the same thing. They have similar customers, similar products, but what you don't want to do is address a cover letter to Wawa and send it to Sheets. That just shows Sheets that you've applied for their competitor, and it does not give you a great first impression. You may also want to modify some of your things in the intro to best reflect Wawa as opposed to Sheets when making that application. One great tip that I learned is make sure that you read the cover letter or any document out loud. You are 2 or 3 times as likely to catch mistakes if you read a document out loud because it forces your brain to both hear it and to see it and to say it. So with those 3 different um, 3 different senses, there you go. Sorry about that. With those 3 different senses that you're activating, you're more likely to catch those mistakes. Always double check for spelling of your contact's name as well, and make sure that you include the correct company contact name. So you've written your resume, you've written your cover letter, and now it's time to prepare for the actual interview itself. Luckily, your resume went through the scanner because it was pulled and you included great keywords, so they want to bring you in for an interview. What should you do in beforehand? Make sure that you're conducting company research, gathering interview documents, prepare and practice your responses, prepare for the actual interview, and then reflect afterwards. Employers have prepared questions for you, and for you to best show your interest and your dedication to the company, it's great to also prepare your answers and have some questions for them as well. So make sure that you practice your interview with a friend, mentor, teacher, or trusted adult that can offer you great feedback. Make sure that you're linking your personal values to organizational values. Identify your transferable skills and link any experience you have to the position. Again, this is a great opportunity to research and do some company research on the website to see what are some of their key values that you can maybe identify with and explain how those values are also important to you. Make sure you make mention of your transferable skills and always link your experience back to the position itself. The STAR method. This is something that we use. It's a little kind of tool to help you answer difficult questions, such as describe a difficult work situation or project and how you overcame it. These are all behavioral and situational questions that oftentimes are really hard to answer if you don't go in with a plan of action. The STAR method kind of walks you through that to make sure that you explain the situation really well and make sure that you are using it to promote your skills in a great way. So you want to start off by explaining the situation. What was the difficult work situation or project that you had to overcome? What tasks did you have to do, or what tasks were you presented with that you had to work through in order to achieve an end goal? What action steps did you take to achieve those tasks? And then what was the end result? It's okay if the end result isn't necessarily positive itself, but what you want to show is that your steps that led to that led to a great outcome. So for example, it's okay if you are planning for a difficult situation at work You may talk about how maybe the team wasn't really working well together. You were on a team project and nobody was really cooperating. The task was that you had to, turn in a research project by the end of the week. Explain your action steps, and maybe the results weren't that you got a great grade, but the results were that you at the end came together and worked really well as a team. Things like that, you always want to end on a highlight, even if maybe it wasn't the best or the situation result that you were hoping for. Interview questions that are often difficult to answer and sometimes trip people up are things like, tell me about yourself. This is really broad and open ended and can sometimes make people feel unprepared or, where do I begin? What do you want to know? When you ask this question, which is a very common question in interviews, make sure that you focus on positive attributes such as hobbies, playing sports, community involvement, or anything that really can excite the employer to want to get to know you. It's okay to be personal. It's okay to talk about things that you enjoy, but make sure you're doing it in a positive way and try and link it back to the position you're applying for whenever possible. Another question that's often asked is, what are your weaknesses? Make sure that you select a weakness that is non-essential to the position. So for example, you would never want to say, oh, I really have a hard time showing up to class on time. That's not something that you want to highlight or reveal about yourself in an interview. That just shows an employer that you may not show up to work on time and that punctuality is an issue for you. That's an essential key part of the position. So don't highlight that as a weakness. Perhaps instead you could say, one of my weaknesses is that I really struggle with cooking. It's something that I'd like to grow in. It's an area that I want to improve on. And here's some of the things that I'm doing. I started cooking with my mom every Tuesday night, and she's teaching me as we go. Something that you can identify is your ability to identify strengths and weaknesses, but without selling yourself short for the job description itself. Also, make sure that you are always ending on a positive note and you're highlighting the ways that you are working towards improvement. Questions for employers. Oftentimes, when you go into an interview, we're not prepared to ask the employer questions as well. We just expect them to do all the talking. This is a great opportunity for you to also ask questions to the employer to make sure that this place is going to be a good fit for you. Some examples of questions that you can ask for an employer are, what do you look for in an ideal employee? When do you plan on filling this position? What is something that you love about your job? The third question is a really great way to tell whether or not the person interviewing you is even happy in their position. If they're not happy, you may want to take a step back and look at maybe why. Is this a great company to work for? Is this a position that's going to keep you satisfied and happy for a period of time? If they answer it and they're not really sure, that's okay for you to also be asking in questions and kind of doing your own research. Make sure that it's a good fit for you, not just that you're a great fit for them. When you show up to the interview, make sure that you are dressed appropriately and that you have good interview etiquette. You want to dress one level higher than the position you're interviewing for. So, for example, if you're going in and you are applying to be a waitress or a waiter at a restaurant, you don't need to show up in a full suit and tie, but you may want to go in with a nice pair of khakis and a dress-up shirt, perhaps a tie also. You want to make sure that you avoid denim pants, sneakers, sandals, closed-toed shoes, professional shoes, essentially something that's business casual or professional depending on the position you're going for. Cover up your tattoos and remove any facial piercings. Interview etiquette. Make sure that you're smiling and expressing a warm, friendly demeanor, and consider your tone of voice. How you go in, if you go in and you appear to be extremely nervous, reserved, shy, quiet, that doesn't set a tone of confidence and welcome atmosphere. So make sure that you go in and you think of it as just having another conversation with a friend. You want to be professional, but if you take that anxiety away of this is so serious, it allows you to relax a little bit more and be more authentic in your presentation of yourself. Make sure that you pay attention to your posture. If you go in and you sit down and you slouch in your chair, that doesn't show the employer that you're eager and willing and ready to work. Sit up nice and tall, be confident, offer a nice handshake, smile, thank them, and actively listen and respond to the interview when they're asking questions. It's okay to say to the interviewer, "Could I have a minute to think about that?" if they ask you a question and you aren't 100% sure how to answer it. Asking for a second is okay, but make sure that in that moment and that pause that you take, you're thinking through and providing really valuable feedback. It's great here to note that if you are in need of professional attire, we actually have access to a clothing closet at PA CareerLink. Please reach out to us, call us, email us, and ask for some information about when and how you may be able to get some professional clothing for an interview with our professional clothing closet. When you're at the interview, some things to avoid are critical behaviors, comments, or side comments of your former employer, supervisor, or team. Make sure that you're able to answer and clarify your strengths and weakness. Make sure that you're also able to provide clear, concise answers. You don't want to be boastful or arrogant as opposed to confident, and you definitely don't want to be too shy and reserved. And for whatever you do not bring your cell phone into the interview. Now, a lot of young adults will respond and say, "Well, I just turned it on silent," or, "Oh, I had it on vibrate in my pocket." That's not the great, that's okay in the sense that it may not distract the interviewer and the person that you're sitting there meeting with, but it will distract you. If your phone vibrates or if you see it light up, that's going to distract your thought process and it is going to set a tone for the interview itself. So if you have to bring it into the interview with you, then turn it off. Turn it off and leave it in a bag, leave it in your pocket, but it's best to just not even bring it with you to the interview. Make sure also, as I had mentioned, that you're avoiding critical comments of previous employers, teammates, or supervisors. You always want to make sure that anything that you're communicating is done so in a positive way, so as to highlight positive experiences, learning opportunities, areas of growth that you've been able to make, etc. Because you don't want to have it bring any negativity into the interview itself, because in that, work sites and business supervisors are probably going to wonder, if things don't go well with them, how are you going to then talk about them to other people? So make sure that you're always spending things in a positive way, or when at all possible, just avoid sharing any negative criticism of previous employers. So you've had your interview, things went well. Now what? Well, before you leave, make sure that you ask what the timeline is for the decision process for hiring someone for the position you're applying for. This is a great way to know when and how you should follow up with the business, and also to show them that you are eager for this position. Ask for a business card from everyone that you interviewed with before you leave so that you know where to send your thank you note. Give them a copy of your references. Give them a firm handshake and thank them for their time and consideration. And most importantly, let them know that you look forward to hearing from them soon. That last statement is really key in setting the tone for the business and the worksite. Letting them know that you look forward to hearing from them soon shows them that you are confident in your ability to perform the task, and you look forward to hearing their response. Make sure that you are giving them your references at the end of the interview, as well as asking for that business card. What I always recommend is that you go out, sit in your car, and jot down a few notes on the back of that business card about that person that you interviewed with. If they talked about their dog, their vacation that they're going on, if they really like the Phillies or the Eagles, make sure that you jot those things down, because that's a way that you can personalize your thank you note in your follow-up. So on that note, thank you letters are really, really, really awesome and a really great way to kind of seal the deal and just close off the whole interview process. You want to send a personalized thank you letter or note to each member of the people that interviewed you within 24 hours of meeting them. You want to make sure that you keep it brief but professional, because this is not a time to go on and on and on again about your qualifications and why you would be a great fit for the position. You already did that in the interview. This is just simply a place to thank them for their time and attention and for giving you this opportunity. It's also a great way to show that you were listening, you paid attention to them, and you value them as more than just an interviewer. You value them as a potential teammate, supervisor, and person in your life. That's why the more personal and professional, personal meaning specifically directed and related to them, but professional meaning maintaining a level of professionalism and keeping things clean, clear, and concise. That is a great example of a thank you letter. You can do this in a handwritten note, you can do it in an email, or you can send them a typed out letter to be mailed in. Here, I would encourage you to think through any questions, concerns, comments, feedbacks, any areas of critique that you would like to offer, and feel free to send us an email, a comment, so that we can always be here to support you and make this as great of a resource and a tool for you as possible. We have social media accounts where you can follow us for latest news updates, resources, positions that we may be applying for, positions and internships that may be available within our community. So go ahead and give our Young Adults of Career Link, Facebook and Instagram page a like and a follow, and hopefully we will hear from you soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this webinar. We hope that it offered you some valuable feedback and insight as to how to write good resumes, even with limited job experience, how to write a good cover letter, how to prepare and ace an interview, and then the appropriate steps to follow up with thank you notes. Thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.